Just setting up the live stream. Please bear with me. Okay. I think we've got everything working. Let me just go and check the volume levels. So yeah, volume levels looking good. I may have to adjust the volume of the simulator in a few moments once we get the engine up and running, because it's going to be very, very noisy. So this is the Flying Iron Spitfire, which has been out for ages in Flight Simulator, and I've owned it for ages, but I've never actually recorded any content with it. So is this the beginning of me looking at all of the Flying Iron aeroplanes one after another? Very possibly, but I won't be doing it this weekend because I'm going away. So it will be next week, if at all. But I thought we'd come and have a look at the Flying Iron Spitfire anyway, just to complete looking at the aeroplanes that I've actually got in the simulator. Because I'm not quite sure how I've missed it in the past, but there we go. Okay, so as you can see, it's wonderfully modelled, and if we come down inside the cockpit just very slowly with the drone camera, you can see it's very, very good. So I've got this in it's the Mark 9C Spitfire, by the way, if you weren't sure. I've got this in the Muscat colours. So if you go and look at the history books, you'll be able to find this exact aeroplane and find out what part of the world it was based in. And hopefully it shouldn't be too difficult to fly. Okay, so we are starting out, I'll show you on the map in a moment where we are. We're at Turrock Airfield. So I downloaded it from Orbex the other day with the intention of doing some of these flights. So hopefully this should be an interesting place to go look at as well. So if we just zoom out a little bit with the camera, you'll get to see the airfield itself. It's a nice little airfield. So there's a grass strip and a hard strip down the middle of the field. So we'll be taxiing down to the other end, just looking at the windsock is, we're going to have a slight crosswind, but we need to taxi down to the far end once we get the airplane up and running. So we're going to go and work through starting the Spitfire up. Hopefully I'll be able to get it started. I've had mixed success so far. It can be recalcitrant, I think that's the word you might use. So we've already got the canopy open. We can look around with the mouse just to get things started. So make sure the wheel brakes are on so we don't lurch forwards when the engine does burst into life. The wheel brakes are on. In the real aircraft, I don't think it had wheel brakes, but it would certainly have had shocks. So batteries need to come on, and it's actually, this is a point where it's helpful to have the head tracking. So battery switch is right there. So I'll leave head tracking on for the moment. So then I'm going to have to look down to see my written instructions, aren't they? I'm just going to prop them up so you don't see my head craning around as I go between looking at the screen and looking at my instructions. So the prop control needs to go fully forwards. So that's this one. So I'm going to go and put it all the way forwards. And then the carb air filter needs to go forwards as well. Then the fuel needs to come on, and that's over here. Yeah, it does help having the... Look at that click spot's terrible, isn't it? It was hitting that's the parking brakes. Oh, so it has got parking brakes. Sorry, I'm being ridiculous. I was thinking of a different aeroplane now that didn't have a parking brake. This one does. I think it was retrofitted onto them, though, later in life. The earlier versions perhaps didn't have it. Mixtures. So we want to make sure the mixture is shut off at the moment. So that's pulled back. That's good. Throttle goes to 1/2 inch open. Wobble pump. So you can see there's a light down here for the fuel pressure. So we're going to go and hit the wobble pump repeatedly until the light goes out. It's a shame they've animated it and we can't just drag it, because we could go a lot faster if we could drag it. So there it's just gone out. I'm going to give it a few more just for good measure. Okay, so then the primer, we have to rotate it anti-clockwise to unlock it. And then there's no easy way of seeing this, but I'm going to go for about 7. The book numbers say about 7 pushes for kind of normal summer or autumn temperatures. Obviously it's heavily dependent on the conditions on the day. Give it more than I need. Okay, so then we open the starter and boost coil covers and we put the mixture fully forwards, if we can grab it. There we go. And we put the magnetos on. And then we go and attempt to start it. So we're going to hold the coil on for a moment to warm things up and then go for it. If it doesn't start, we'll just prime it a bit more. Oh no, there we go. We got the engine first time. So we'll try to hit 1000 RPM just to warm up. And then we'll go and put the lights on. And we're pretty much ready at this point, so I'm just going to straighten the view up. And I'm going to go and check the volume. Yeah, I knew this was going to happen. It's an incredibly noisy aeroplane. Although we have got the canopy open at the moment. So let's have a look at that from outside. Look at it moving around. This is going to look great in the new sim, isn't it? With the propeller pushing the grass over. Okay, so the tail wheel steering on the Spitfire is pretty useless, so you have to use an element of differential braking. So while we're warming up, we'll go and take the airplane out. You can see, look, I'm on full right deflection. That's really just moving the rudder. So we're going to go and open the throttle while holding the brake. It's not having it. There we go. And that's what happens when you haven't got 4 hands. I had the differential brakes on one controller and I couldn't get back in time across the desk to stop it. So this is what happens if you haven't got rudder pedals. And I don't have rudder pedals. So I'm going to quickly whiz through that again. We'll get the engine started again. And hopefully I'll be a bit quicker off the mark next time without trying to explain things while I'm doing it. And now Flight Sim's broken the views, just to compound our problems. We are going to have to go in here and go to the pilot view, and it's done it on its own, look, as soon as we open this one. Okay. Let's work through that again then. So canopy open. Wheel brakes on. Battery on, so we need the head tracking to do this. We'll be getting good at this, won't we? Prop control fully forwards, and that is fully forwards already. Carb air filter to forwards. Fuel to on. Mixture to idle, and it is. Throttle open 1/2 inch. And it is. Wobble pump. So we build up pressure until the light goes out, and then we give it a few extra. There is a simplified taxiing option in the tablet, but I'm trying to show you how difficult the Spitfire is to handle. In the real world, they quite often had people on the end of the wings in tight spaces to walk the aeroplane around, because it is very ungainly on the ground. Okay, so primer, we rotate it anti-clockwise to unlock it, and then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Uncover the buttons for the starter and boost coils, then the mixture can go fully forwards. Magnetos can come on, and then we're going to hold the coil on for a second and then go for it. Is he going to do it? It can sometimes take a while. No. So we're going to prime it a bit more. And go again. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to calibrate the altimeter as well while I'm here this time. We'll go and put the lights on. You can see it moving around already on the ground. And that's with the brakes on. And we've got the same problem again. I'm having to use both hands at the same time. There we go. It just doesn't lend it. Oh great, thank you very much, bus. You going to stay there? Or am I going to have to try and get around you? This simulator has a sense of humour sometimes, doesn't it? He'll drive away now. Now he's got in the way. So we need to taxi down to the far end. So yes, this is entirely accurate about how difficult the Spitfire is to handle. And people who make it look easy have usually got the realism switched off. You have to imagine there's an enormous Merlin engine strapped to the front of this, which weighs a lot and has an enormous amount of torque. You have to be so careful with it. Not only to manage the power, but also to manage the engine from destroying itself. It's like the, if you read the books about it, the pilots always said about the Spitfire, in the right hands it was absolutely, you know, it was a lethal tool. But in the wrong hands, the pilots would end up killing themselves. It was very difficult to fly. Not just ground handling, I mean in the air as well. The agility came at a price. Trying to get it to straighten up and it's not having it. So we'll just use the rudder and some power over the rudder. Okay, so we're going to gently open the rudder up as we increase in power. Missed the fence by a few feet. Gear up. cover ourselves up and go back to normal on here. And we now have our sports car in the sky to go and throw around. But just getting it into the sky requires lots of practice. Okay, let's just check things around. So we've got the lights on, we've pulled the propeller speed back, we're running at 50% throttle. You can see down here temperatures are well within ranges, boost is nowhere near its limit. We've pulled the radiators back to normal, so we have our Spitfire. So there's the airfield we took off from. So someone in the comments is saying quite rightly the ideal RPM for cruise is about 2650. So you get some options in the tablet with this version of it. You can have the original airspeed indicator in miles per hour, or you can have it in knots, and it defaults on install to knots. So that's what I've got at the moment. So you can see it in kind of normal cruise. You're looking at about 250 knots nearly. It's pretty rapid. It can go a lot faster than that, obviously, in a dash, but you have to then start watching temperatures. Okay, where were we going to fly to? Let's have a look at the map. We are going to go down to Rochester, so 12 miles to the southeast of us. So we're looking for about 155 degrees, 160 degrees to get down to Rochester. So let's pull ourselves around. 130, 140, 155 degrees. So we're going to go across the water. So let's trim the airplane out in a straight line. Just watching the vertical speed indicator there. So you'll see, yeah, look, we're stabilising about 265 knots. But we're still nowhere near the amount of boost or power we could be putting out. If we come back off the boost entirely, we'll probably come back to about 240. 245 knots. So it's a shame not to do some aerobatics, isn't it? So should we have a look at it? So let's put it into a gentle dive. Look, as we were turning, or as we were going through the loop, over the top of the loop, the airplane started to rotate. I could see it doing it. I don't know if you noticed it, but once we got into low speed, the torque from the propeller started to rotate the airplane. Of course, the Spitfire's party piece is obviously its turn rate, which is how it managed to be so successful. So if we do go and up the power a bit for a minute and go to full propeller speed. So we're not going to hold this for long. I just want to show you the turn rate. winding more and more elevator in as we go. Yeah, it started to kick out. It nearly flicked out of the turn then. Like I said, it's a dangerous aeroplane. If you fly it within its limits well, it's enormously manoeuvrable. But it can bite you. So if we go left turn, it will behave differently in a left to a right turn, as most accurate model aeroplanes will. So there we go, look, snap roll. I've just pushed it back out of it, and it now won't correct to the right. So we just roll it back out of that. It's interesting, isn't it? So look at the temperature climbing where we had the boost up for a while. Okay, so we should be over somewhere near Rochester. Yeah, we're still on our way, look. If we get a bit of altitude, I'll show you what I mean about snap rolls and things like that. So there's someone here saying trim, trim, trim. Yeah, in terms of elevator trim, yes, but this sort of aeroplane, you can't keep trimming it to let it fly itself in a straight line. You have to fly it. It will move around all the time. There's a bit of a myth among the sim community that you can trim something to make it fly like a pattern aerobatic aeroplane. No. These planes won't. They move around. And if you fly on trim, you'll end up in the ground. Or, you know, or just massively behind the aeroplane. So I'll show you what I mean. Yeah? And it's not going to come out of that. It's tumbling. Yeah, we're going to have to go to slew to get out of it. That was just to show you, to illustrate just how dangerous this aeroplane is. We want to rotate it, don't we? I'm going to have to do this the long way round. Will it allow? No, it won't allow us to rotate it. There we go. The keyboard controls in Flight Simulator are horrendous for doing this. I can't get the nose up, look, without... I can roll it, and I can do that. So what I'll do, I'll leave it there, and when I come out, I've got just enough room without it snapping away from me to get away from the ground. There are lots of missing controls in the simulator when you put it into slew, for example. You can use the Xbox controller in slew to rotate and translate yourself. But yeah, it's a bit of a so-and-so. So you could see there, I flick rolled it, and it says in all the documentation, if you don't get it within 2 turns, you've lost the aeroplane. So there's our destination. So yeah, if you enter a fully developed spin in a Spitfire, you have to get it out typically in the first 2 turns. If you don't, you're going to need 10,000 feet to get it out, and you'll have to dump the nose. Of course, we were at low altitude because I was just showing you how dangerous it is. But flown within limits, it's the most manoeuvrable plane of its era. Unfortunately, there's nothing electronic on it to tell you where those limits are, so it's all about experience and training. I mean, normal aerobatic manoeuvres, you know, it does with absolute ease. So, you know, aileron rolls, you can see how straight the fuselage travels. It rolls on its axis. I do want another one just to show you. It's very, very cool. Right, let's come back in over the airfield and have a look. which way is the wind? 24 knots, oh my word, that's well beyond its limits, really. What we may have to do... The wind was nowhere near as bad at Turrock. Obviously we're closer to the coast. Here's 28 knots. Yeah, that's not happening. Although that's where we are. What's the wind on the ground? 25 knots. Oh no, 2 knots. So that makes no sense. There's 2 knots on the ground from the west. So we are going the right way to come in from this side. Okay, so we're down to about 130 knots, so I'm going to go and put the gear down. If you're wondering about it looking cramped, there's only just enough room in the canopy for your head, basically. It's not like a John Wayne Second World War movie where you're sat in a living room with the camera crew. So we're a little bit low. And you would typically, anything underneath 160 knots, you would get out of the side of the cockpit to see what's going on. Go, and we're down. So let's go and taxi back round and have another go. So we need to go and put the where are we? Couldn't see the lever there for a moment. I needed to open the radiator flaps. So we'll just taxi back round the edge of the airstrip. And then we'll go again. So this is my first visit to this airfield actually at Rochester. I'm super impressed with it. It looks good, doesn't it? So propeller speed all the way back forwards again. Flaps are up. Opening the throttle very gently. and we're in the air. Look at it moving around. Let's gear up. It's the motorway. And pull the canopy back over ourselves. And now we're up, we can go and close the radiators again. They don't need as much air pouring through them. So I think I've got head corn. I'm just looking. Yeah. So if we go measure distance from here, 150 degrees. I bought it recently. So let's go 150 then, when we come out of the cloud. So I'm using the rudimentary attitude indicator that you get in the Spitfire while we're in the clouds here. Should we go and climb above the cloud while we're in the turn? I'm not following book numbers here for the climb rate at all. I apologise for that. Just doing a big arcing turn to get above the clouds, and then we'll come back round towards, probably want about 160. It's 150, and level the same. You can see it moving around. Just here, it's not stable at all, which is a good thing, you know, given its job. Yeah, so the live stream comments, somebody's saying about the curved approach. So you'll often hear people talking about a steep turn in towards an airfield as a Spitfire approach. It's because of this, because you can't see where you're going. If you're looking over here the whole time as you come in, it makes things a lot easier. Otherwise, you end up doing what I did, and that's why they had the goggles, is you pull back the canopy and you lean out to look where you're going. Let's see where we've got to. So coming back towards the track, so we need to turn left to 150. It's a great aeroplane though, isn't it? It actually requires that you fly it. You can't just point it, turn on an autopilot and go and make a cup of tea. It actually requires knowledge and experience and practice, which I think is fantastic. It's a shame there aren't any kind of streaming effects in Flight Simulator. because yeah, at high speed and given specific air conditions, you should get streams coming off the wingtips when you're pulling manoeuvres. So, we're getting near to the airfield. What's the wind doing down here? 250 degrees, 2 knots. So we'll go off to the east of the airfield. And we'll drop down as we go. Hopefully spot the airfield along the way. So we should see it at about our 1 or 2 o'clock. Is that it there? I think it might be. So maybe before we approach it, we'll go and circle it and have a look at it first. Having not visited here before, it will be good fun to have a look at it. Yeah, that's an airfield. Weather's not great today, is it? That makes it more interesting though. So we'll circle overhead before flying out to make an approach. Someone's asking, doesn't it do the streaming? We'll try it out in a moment. We'll get some speed up and throw it around the sky a little bit. So this is, what was the name of the airfield again? Headcorn. I was going to say Runcorn, but that's somewhere entirely different. Headcorn Airfield. There's a lot of aeroplanes on the ground, aren't there? Hey, and there's some historic stuff down there as well. Very cool. Okay, let's open the throttle up then. So we were asking about whether you get streams coming off the wingtips. We're going to find out in a moment. No, you would have expected to have seen them. Did you see that wobbling then? As it was fighting to break away from us. Okay, so we're still up at 180 knots. We need to lose some speed. So if I lift us into a turn, and the speeds come right off, which is good. So this wasn't as tight a turn as people are talking about. I'll do a touch and go and illustrate it. We'll come back round again. So flaps are down, propellers back to max speed. Yeah, the wind is not helping us today. That was a bounce and a half, wasn't it? That's the tallest windsock I've ever seen. Okay, so gear down again. Flaps down. Now I'm not sure in terms of book manoeuvres if you're supposed to manoeuvre with the flaps on full or have them only 50%. This might be a bit of a tight turn given our low speed, but we'll find out. Where's the edge of the runway? Right underneath us. And we're down. 3-pointed it that time. So back on the ground, we haven't got the airflow through the engine, so we need to open up the radiator flaps. I thought this version of the Spitfire had an intermediate flap setting. Maybe that's my mistake. Should go and park next to the DC-3 over there. It looks fantastic, doesn't it? There's a couple of Spits here as well. And the museum. Oh, we have to go over there and have a look then, don't we? I'll put the drone camera on in a moment. We'll go and have a nosy around. There's a Texan over there. Can we get through here with my meagre steering skills? Oh dear. Right. So let's pull the mixture. very cool. And we can hear heat dissipating. So, lights off. Fuel off. We should have covered those buttons really earlier. Oh, is that rain that's hitting the aeroplane? It could be, couldn't it? Although I can't see it bouncing off the skin. Anyway, we need to go and turn the battery off, don't we? Which is this switch here. So let's go to the drone camera and go and have a nose around this airfield. So again, yeah, Flight Simulator's done a number. Look, it's broken the views. We can't get the drone camera that we want. Now we can. So there's a DC-3 here. Well, C-47, isn't it? The military version. There's a... Now, I have a friend who is an expert on Texans, so he would know exactly what this is. Or Harvard's Texans, I'm not quite sure what the different designations are, what differentiates them. But he probably would know who painted it as well, such as his knowledge and experience. It may even been him. Let's go and have a look at the other one. It's got an odd metallic paint job on this one, which I'm sure isn't real, but... Caliph Eng. This is privately owned, of course. So there's a two-seater Spitfire over here. Now, I saw a Jaguar car painted, I'm pretty sure, with these letters on it last week. And I remarked about it to somebody. So let's have a look at this other one. Interesting. So we have a few other airplanes here. Is that a Stearman? I think it might be. The Wingwalk Company. I think I've seen this airplane, you know, many years ago. So over here we have some Robins of various descriptions, some Cessnas. What's that over the back? Oh, let's go and look in the museum hangar, see what they've got in there. So is this... It's difficult to tell, isn't it, with the cover on it. I'm interested to come over here. Is that a P-50? No, it's the Spitfire model again. There's a Tiger Moth. Oh my word. So you've got a Tiger Moth here. This is cool, isn't it? This airfield. Very good. There's another C-47 in the hangar. So presumably they're set up to take people for Spitfire rides. Very cool. And is there anything in the next hangar? This is a bit of a gem, isn't it, this airfield? It's very good. Oh, hello, there's a blanket with something under it. What do you think's under there, then? Should we go and have a look? Nothing. The Roswell saucer, maybe. There's a cafe. Who wants a cup of tea? My shout. Looks like they've got socially distanced seating there. Very cool. What a great airfield. I'll have to remember this one. So we parked over by the C-47, didn't we? So hopefully you enjoyed that. That's the Spitfire from Flying Iron. Over the coming... well, actually, I'm away for the next few days, but hopefully before 2024 comes out, I'll go and grab some of the other Flying Iron aeroplanes and cover them in the simulator. But yeah, that was good fun. It's obviously it takes practice to operate it safely, and you saw, you know, as soon as I got in it, because I didn't have the controls to hand easily to be able to control the wheel brakes and the rudder and the power and everything, you know, while also trying to control the views. I put the airplane on its nose immediately, which was easily done. And you saw during flight, we lost control of it when I showed you just how unstable it can be, and it became, you know, unsavable. Yeah, it's raining, isn't it? It's just spitting with rain. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully you've enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon.